Kubernetes Interview Questions and Answers 2024. In the technical language and terms, one can define Kubernetes as an open-source orchestration platform. By making use of Kubernetes, multiple large amounts of containers can be managed easily. As Kubernetes is an open-source platform, it can be accessed by everyone.
But before we start moving forward, make sure to subscribe channel and click on the bell icon. Sprintzeal provides training programs, certification programs on their websites. If you're interested in them, do check out the links in the description.
There is no need for authentication required like in the case of a closed source platform. However, when it comes to open source platforms, people tend to back off. And such backing off has a reason. Most of the open source platforms are not updated constantly. This is because the users of open source tend to be less and they use these platforms infrequently. Now, in the case of open source platforms like Kubernetes, Java, etc., there is a regular stream of updates. The reason for such regular updates is that open sources like these are pilgrimage for the developers and programmers. So, Kubernetes being an open source orchestration platform, it allows its users to scale, manage, automate, and deploy computer applications. It was created by Google and presently is being sustained by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. Kubernetes focuses on managing, scaling, and operating containers of applications. In order to become the maestro of Kubernetes, let us discuss some of the top-notch interview questions of Kubernetes to increase your chance to excel as a developer. 1. Differentiate between Kubernetes and Docker Swarm. There are certain features, and on the basis of those features we will differentiate between Kubernetes and Docker Swarm. 2. Explain Kubernetes. The Kubernetes is designed and developed by Google, and it can be defined as an open-source orchestration tool. In other words, Kubernetes is an open-source container manager. It helps the user to organize, scale, and automate many large containers. As it is developed by Google, it doesn't have to prove its excellence. In layman's terms, we can call Kubernetes a solution for the management of multiple containers. 3. Define the relation between Kubernetes and Docker. Docker delivers a facility to manage the life cycle of a container, while it also helps in building the runtime container. Well, Docker may help in building runtime containers and so on, but the Docker container cannot communicate. These containers need a platform to communicate. This is where Kubernetes plays a crucial role in arranging communication between the Docker containers. 4. Describe container orchestration. There are certain microservices provided to every application, and those microservices can serve only when they are synchronized well. The synchronization of the microservices is highly important in order to run any application in a seamless manner. In such cases, the container orchestration comes into play. In layman's terms, orchestration is known as the fusion of different types of instruments to produce a great piece of music. The role of container orchestration is to fuse different components of an application to deliver a smooth service. 5. What is the necessity of container orchestration? A number of microservices are installed in the container of an application. Without the microservices, the application can't perform specific functions. And the containers that contain the microservices can only work when they will communicate with each other. Here, inter-container communication is necessary to perform certain activities in the application. In such conditions, the container orchestration tool comes into play. The container orchestration basically synchronizes all the containers containing microservices. 6. Explain the process of simplification of containerized deployment with Kubernetes. Every application contains a group of containers that tend to run across a number of hosts. Well, in order to perform well, these containers need to communicate with each other. And the communication of these containers is possible by means of Kubernetes. Kubernetes is basically cloud agnostic and is designed in a certain way to allow communication between multiple containers. And this is how the deployment of containers takes place. 7. Define the clusters in Kubernetes. Basically, Kubernetes is designed in such a manner that it allows the developers to feed cluster services, and each service is designed according to a certain configuration. After feeding the cluster services with the desired codes and commands, then the cluster will automatically run configuration in the infrastructure. 8. Define the Google Container Engine. The Google Container Engine can be defined as the open source manager for Docker and the related clusters. The GK or Google Container Engine is basically an engine that supports clusters that run in the public cloud services of Google. 9. Define heapster. Kubernetes provides data, and this data run on each node. But these data are needed to be aggregators. This is where the heapster comes into play and aggregates all data that are supplied by the Kubernetes. Now this container is generally supported by the cluster of Kubernetes, and it runs like a pod. Then it finds all other clusters and examines the information used from the nodes of Kubernetes. This is done with the help of a non-machine agent. 10. What do you buy Minikube? The Minikube can be defined as a tool that helps to run Kubernetes in a localized manner or locally. This in return leads to running Kubernetes in a virtual machine. 11. Define kubectl. The kubectl can be defined as a platform that can be used to pass the commands to the cluster. In other words, it delivers commands to the CLI to run against the Kubernetes clusters. 12. Explain kubeproxy. The kubeproxy is a component of worker nodes. The kubeproxy goes through each node and runs in them. It helps in TCP/UDP packet forwarding transversely backend network services. And eventually, the proxy of the network or network proxy is configured in the Kubernetes API in every single node. And finally, the cluster IPs and ports are supplied by the compatible environment variables of Docker. And these clusters are opened by the proxy. 13. Define etcd. etcd can be defined as the distributed key value store, which establishes a relation between the distributed works. The etcd is basically written in a specific language that is called a Go programming language. Its main function is to accumulate the configuration information of the cluster of Kubernetes. This helps it to represent the form of the cluster at any following time. 14. Define and explain container resource monitoring. It is important for users to keep track of an application's performance. One of the common criteria that are considered to do so is by checking the utilization of resources at different levels of abstraction. Kubernetes has developed cluster management by producing abstraction at various levels such as containers, pods, whole clusters, and services. All these activities together can be called container resource monitoring. 15. Can you define headline service? The services that do not have cluster IP are called headless services. These services allow the user to go to the pods directly. These services can let the user reach pods by going through a proxy. 16. Discuss federated clusters. A federated cluster is a tool that permits the user to manage numerous Kubernetes clusters as a single cluster. Hence, the federated cluster allows the user to create many clusters within the data cloud and manages these data all together in one place.
If you found this video informative and useful, we'll always bring new concepts explained for you, so stay tuned with Sprintzeal, and if you like the video, do share. If have any doubts or queries, do let us know in the comment section. Use the coupon code YouTube10 in our website to get 10% off on all our courses.